Einstein, the great scientist, once said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. I completely agree with this quote, as it emphasizes the importance of simplifying the complex theories and using the real life examples for better understanding. This is exactly what we strive to achieve on our platform. Hello, curious minds. Welcome back to Project Silence Prodigy, my YouTube channel dedicated to continuous learning and growth in the field of project management. I'm Govind, a PMP certified project manager with over 15 years of experience in overseeing power plant projects. In today's episode, we'll delve into understanding of various project development approaches. Project development approach, project development life cycle, and project methodologies all are the related terms. Project development approaches mainly refer to the methods and techniques which we are using to create and evolve a product, service, or result during the project life cycle. Different industries use different approaches to run their project with aim of delivering the value to the customer and meeting the business objectives. Three approaches are very common: predictive or waterfall approach, agile approach, and hybrid approach. If we draw a straight line and show the predictive, hybrid, and agile approaches on it, so how will it look like? The predictive approach would be on the left end of the line, indicating a more rigid and structured approach to project development. The agile approach would be on the right end of the line, indicating a more flexible and adaptive approach to project development. Whereas the hybrid approach would be in the middle of the line, indicating a combination of both structured and flexible approaches to project development. Let me explain it with another simple example. Just consider three generations of a family. The people who are currently in their 40s or 50s, like me, our parents must be somewhere in 70s or 80s, correct? They hold traditional conservative views and are a bit resistant to change. And other side, if we look to our children who have just turned to their adolescent age, can be seen with agile mindset, exactly having opposite thoughts of our parent generation. And we, as the middle generation, possess a deep understanding of traditional cultural values, yet we are also eager to adapt and evolve to align with the more dynamic and progressive attitude of our children. Anyhow, we have no choice, do we? So, this was the simple understanding of project development approaches. Let's explore each of them one by one. Predictive approach, also known as the waterfall approach, this is a traditional project management approach that involves a linear sequence of phases with each phase completed before moving on the next phase. Do you know why we call it waterfall approach? We all might have seen waterfalls somewhere or sometime in our life. If not physically, at least in video or picture for sure. What happens that water flows over the edge of the cliff in a predictive manner. It doesn't change its course. It maintains a fixed structure and progression. Similarly, in our predictive approach, project activities follow a predetermined sequence, pre-planned sequence, with each phase progressing in a structured manner. In the waterfall approach, each phase of the project is completed before moving on to the next phase. And there is minimal overlap. Sometimes it's there between the phases. Once a phase is completed, so it is assumed that its outputs are fully defined and approved before proceeding to the next phase. Detailed planning and documentation. So it is done in advance during initiation and planning to reduce the uncertainty. We create a repository of documentation that can be referred throughout the project life cycle, or it can be a reference for the future projects. Emphasis on upfront requirements gathering. All the requirements are thoroughly defined and collected in beginning itself, even before start of the project work. What are the needs, expectations, and constraints of the stakeholders are understood in advance and documented to act. Baselines are created and approved, like the scope baseline, cost baseline, schedule baseline. In large project organization, normally there is a separate team to gather this data, and normally it is done under the leadership of one business role called business analyst. Limited customer involvement during development. Customer interaction happens in predictive approach also, but it happens twice in a project life cycle. One is at before the project work start, in the beginning during requirement collection, and second at the end while delivering the project. Actually, you have fixed deliverables and there are no changes or very limited changes, so you really don't need the customer involvement in mid of the project. Emphasis on control and adherence to plan. It means what we focusing project is to go as per the plan laid out in the beginning. This way we can control our cost, if not fully, but at least we will try to maintain it to the close to the predicted budget which we define in the beginning. Quality metrics which were defined in the beginning during the planning process, so that can be achieved. Project can be delivered in a planned timeline and no scope creep. So we have all three constraints: cost, time, and scope within our control. So that's why we emphasis on the control and adherence to the plan in predictive approach. If I summarize the definition of predictive approach, it says linear sequence, upfront planning, fixed scope, emphasis on documentation, and progress monitoring against the initial plan. These are normally the key characteristics of the predictive approach. As I just said, fixed scope. Normally in predictive, it remains fixed, but sometime if any change required, then it has bit complicated process, which we call change management process. That's the reason predictive approach is considered less flexible. Let's try to understand it with one example. Construction of new house building. Just assume I want to build my house and I invited one civil contractor who has a good experience in building the houses. So this complete project life cycle will pass through 6 phases from initiation to closure. So initiation and planning phase, then pre-construction phase, then site preparation phase, then construction phase, then post-construction phase, and finally it will be the closure phase. Don't get confused on the name of phases because these may vary, depend on the project or depend on the project outcome. So here in the initiation and planning phase, we both will discuss. I will discuss with my contractor, and I will set one objectives uh, to build a house in 1500 square area with a timeline of 6 months. So, taking this objective, my contractor will ask me plenty of questions. He will literally interview me, and he will try to find out what are my requirements, and he will identify the stakeholders in this project. Like, I am the main stakeholder, and apart from me, he will ask how many family members are we, and uh, who is the local authority here nearby area, so he shouldn't face any kind of problem later. And who is our neighbor, are they cooperative if we run this project? So many questions will come up. So after questioning, he will, or mutually we will define a project scope, that what will be done during this project life cycle, and what activities will be in the contractor scope, and what particular activities will be under my scope. Same time, because as this contractor is a very experienced guy, so he will give me a ballpark figure of the costing, that how much budget I should arrange for constructing this house. So next phase is pre-construction phase. So here the architect will prepare the design or drawing for the complete house, and he will make a blueprint of the house. And once it is done, then we have to get the necessary permits and approval from the local authority. So the project shouldn't face any kind of legal actions later stage. If you see how nicely the activities are happening in a sequential manner, I cannot obtain the necessary permits and approval until my architectural design is complete. And I cannot prepare my blueprint until I have the defined project scope. So all the activities flow in a sequence. That's the beauty of predictive approach. Next phase will be site preparation phase. So once the all necessary permits and approvals have been obtained, so the contractor will now start working at site. So he will conduct the site survey, and he will do the soil analysis. He will engage an expert to check the water table, how deep we can go, for the foundation. Then once it is done, then he will mobilize his team and machinery to the site. So, and start excavating for the foundation. Next phase will be construction phase. So as the excavation already has been done, so now the foundation will be laid, and framing and structural work will be done. The walls will rise up, the columns will rise up, and at the end, we will do the roofing and exterior work. Once it all done, so then interior finishing job will be carried out. It will be the small job, like the wiring, plumbing, painting, finishing of walls. So such kind of jobs will be carried out. So if you notice here, every activity is in sequence. You see, once you are done with the foundation, then only you can raise the walls up. Once you have raised the walls, then you can do the roofing. And once you are done with all the exterior work, finally you are coming to the interior finishing work. Next phase is post construction phase. Once all the construction work has been done, then the project team will carry out the final inspection and testing. They will check each and every item, whether these are as per the plan or not. They will create one punch list which will contain the item which are differ than the plan or which have discrepancies. The contractor will advise his team or the concerned person to rectify all the problems. Once it has been solved, so the house will be handed over to me, to the client. Last phase is the project closure. In this phase, the project team and the machinery will be demobilized from the site. They will create the project documentation and they will record the lessons learned register, so which will help them for their future projects. If let's say some of documents is related to house owner to me as electrical circuitry diagram for the house or the plumbing line layout, so they will hand over to me so that I can refer in the future if needed. So that's how with these all 6 phases the project life cycle is completed. Agile approach. Agile word means in dictionary is able to move quickly and easily. This is what exactly we do in the agile approach. Actually, if we talk about agile history, it is not so old. In February 2001, a group of 17 software developers came with the idea of agile. They were looking for an alternative to the traditional heavyweight methodology of predictive approach. They simply came up with 4 principles. What were those? Individual and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. Okay, let's see what the definition says here. Agile is an iterative and incremental approach to project management that emphasizes flexibility and adaptability. Agile is best suited for projects with changing requirements and a dynamic environment. Iterative means doing the work again and again to improve it. The project is divided into small manageable units which are called iteration, or in Scrum framework we call it sprint. So which has a typically timeline of 1 to 4 weeks. Incremental means adding on something, and here we are adding the features to the product in small increments. Emphasis on customer collaboration and feedback. This is the core fundamental of agile approach. Customer, or we can say all the stakeholders, are kept engaged throughout the project life cycle to get their feedback. Continuous delivery of working software. No need to wait for months or year to get the final delivery. Rather, in agile approach, it is done in chunks. Like in Scrum framework, we plan 2 to 4 weeks sprint to deliver the user stories. And working software means the deliverable that meets the acceptance criteria for each user story or features. It is fully functional, tested, and ready for use by the stakeholders. Self-organizing team. So in Agile, normally there is no boss or subordinate culture in the project team. So team collaborates closely and shares the responsibilities. Emphasis on responding to change over following a plan. In today's dynamic world, there are a lot of uncertainties which come across during development of project. Agile team embraces these uncertainties and changes, and they act swiftly to remove any kind of impediments or blockade. If we see, Agile was originated for the software products, but nowadays it is being adopted by each sector of industry. You just name it: manufacturing, healthcare, education, marketing. Even if we talk about the core traditional projects like construction and power plant projects, they are also turning towards Agile. If not completely, at least few of elements, they are following the Agile approach. Let's take one example of my favorite topic, health and fitness, to understand the Agile approach. Assume that one IT company is developing personal fitness tracking mobile application with using Agile approach. Agile itself has more than 50 frameworks like Scrum, Kanban, Extreme Programming, Lean, Dynamic System Development Methods, DSDM, and so on. Before we move further, let me brief you about Scrum framework. In Scrum, mainly there are three roles. One is product owner, second is Scrum Master, and third is product development team. Product owner's role is somewhat similar to the business analyst in predictive approach. And Scrum Master roles you can compare similar to project manager. He helps the development team to use the processes. He helps to remove the impediments and blockade. And project development team, normally there are 5 to 9 members, and each member is called as a developer. We can see here how the project life cycle is moving on applying Scrum Agile framework. You see, we will start from project vision, then the product backlog, sprint 0, sprint 1, sprint 2, and sprint 3. So come to the project vision. So project vision in our example here is to create an user-friendly app that allows users to track their fitness activities, monitor their health metrics, set fitness goals, and receive personalized recommendations. Next, product backlog. So the product owner, he will collaborate with health experts, fitness enthusiasts, and potential users to create a prioritized product backlog list. Here you can see this mobile app should have 8 features mentioned here. So, like user authentication, for login and sign up, dashboard displaying fitness, activity tracker, steps, distance, calorie burned. These all are the almost similar features which every health app has nowadays, and we are using these. Health metric tracking, heart rate, sleep duration, water intake, personalized recommendation based on user data, integration with wearable device, social sharing feature, setting and tracking fitness goals. So after lot discussion and data gathering, brainstorming, the product owner will come up with these features. Next is sprint 0. During this sprint, the team will come together, they will understand each other, and based on the product backlog, the features, they will discuss and write the user stories and acceptance criteria for each user story. The team will do the size estimation for user stories. They will use the techniques like uh, relative sizing, planning poker. So they will fix the story points for each user story. They will prioritize the user stories, which user story should go
in the sprint 1, then the sprint 2 and the sprint 3. Team will plan for the release. So when the first deliverable will be released, second and third, they will prepare the and understand the checklist for DOD and DOR, definition of done, definition of ready. And based on the user story sizing and the features, they will decide the sprint duration, how long one sprint should be. Normally in Scrum, it is 2 to 4 weeks time. So let's suppose during sprint 0, the team has decided the sprint duration of 4 weeks. So each sprint will be of 4 weeks time. Now in the sprint 1, the development team will select subset of user stories. In our example, you can see they have selected the 3 user stories, 3 features from this product backlog: implement user authentication, develop basic dashboard, integrate API for activity tracking. So then sprint execution will start. Daily stand-up meetings will be done to discuss the progress, or if team is facing any kind of challenges, they will address it. And continuous integration and testing will be performed throughout the sprint to ensure the quality and functionality of the app. At the end of the sprint, a sprint review meeting will be held to demonstrate the completed feature to the stakeholders and gather their feedback. So stakeholder will provide their feedback on the usability, functionality, and their experience of the app. So this information can be used by the team in the future iterations. Next will be the sprint retrospective. So sprint retrospective, the development team will conduct a retrospective meeting. It will be the internal meeting. So they will discuss what went well and what could be improved during this sprint. So the team will identify the areas of improvement and enhancing the user engagement features and incorporating additional health metrics. So all will be discussed during this sprint retrospective meeting. Then next will be product backlog refinement. So as these 3 user stories are done now, so then they will again refine this product backlog here for the next sprint. So they will prioritize the backlog items again, and based on the user feedback, if any user story has to be added in the product backlog, they will add on and then they will implement in the next sprint. So then come to the sprint 2. So the same, the this in this sprint you can see the development team has selected 2 user stories here: implement health metrics tracking and develop personalized recommendation engine. So then say similar way the sprint execution will happen. The daily scrum meeting will be done. Sprint at the end of the sprint review meeting will be called. Sprint retrospective will be done, and at the end of the sprint retrospective meeting, the product backlog refinement exercise will be done for the next sprint. So remaining, now you see we have remaining 3, total were 8 features. So 3 we covered here, 2 we covered here, so 3 are remaining. So the team will take the 3 remaining features in this sprint. So the process will be repeated: sprint execution, sprint review, sprint retrospective. So final testing, bug removal, and handing over process will be done. So the team will conduct the comprehensive testing. So they will fix if any remaining bug is there in the app. So they will fix it. And they will prepare the documentation, and finally they will hand over the team to the customer. So we saw the app was released incrementally to the user with regular updates and improvements based on the user feedback. So this is how
we used the Scrum framework to develop our mobile health app. Next is hybrid approach. This is the last topic in this episode. As we spoke earlier, if we draw all three approaches on a straight line, hybrid will be sitting exactly in the center. Let's read its definition. A hybrid approach combines elements of both predictive and agile approaches to project management. The hybrid approach is best suited for projects that have both well-defined and evolving requirements. So elements in the project that are well known and have fixed requirements. So we will plan and execute under predictive approach. And those elements which are uncertain or evolving over the time. So we will adopt the agile approach, tailoring the approach to the needs of project. Basically, we are customizing the project management methodology to fit the specific requirements, constraints, and characteristic of the project. Combining elements of predictive and agile approaches. So here, by combining detailed upfront planning with iteration development, we are delivering the high quality outcomes. Emphasis on flexibility and adaptability. As in hybrid, for few of elements, we are going with agile way of working. So there is always a strong focus on the ability to respond to change and evolving requirements throughout the project life cycle. But here in the hybrid approach, this agile mindset will be integrated with the elements of traditional project management practices to create the balanced approach. Iterative and incremental development. The project may begin with a traditional planning phase to define the high level requirement and establish a roadmap. Later on, the development work can be carried out iteratively and incrementally, with each iteration delivering a subset of features or functionality or the product. Emphasis on customer collaboration and feedback. Customer collaboration and engagement starts from planning stage itself, where most of the elements follow the predictive approach. And at the later stage, while development is iterative and incremental, so customer feedback will become the key input for the successful delivery of the project. So overall, in hybrid approach, balancing the predictive and agile elements in emphasizing customer collaboration and feedback will enable organization to leverage the strength of both methodologies. It will ensure that projects are delivered efficiently and meeting the customer expectations in dynamic and uncertain environments. Let's take the same example of new house construction project which we discussed earlier during predictive approach. And here we will see how such core traditional projects are adopting the agile elements. So the scene was I wanted to build my house and invited one contractor who has rich experience on building houses. Similar to predictive approach, the project life cycle will move on through 6 phases from initiation up to closure. So in initiation and planning phase, these elements will remain same and follow the predictive method. Contractor will gather all the information and requirements after interviewing me, and based on that, he will come up with high level plan and project scope. So what's the difference? So difference you can see here, the text written in the black color. Now he will try to find such requirements which may change during the project life cycle. For that reason, he will invite all the stakeholders together. So you see here, conduct initial brainstorming sessions to gather requirements and user stories. So he will put questions to each of my family member to understand their individual requirement. The purpose is simple, that to have a group discussion brainstorming session to gather more ideas and clear requirements. So create an initial product backlog for elements that might change based on client preferences. Contractor will create a product backlog similar to Agile Approach. The elements in this product backlog will be of changing nature. Let's suppose, let's suppose for the wall colors, at present we all are agreed, all family member are agreed to go for the light blue. But probably by the time project reach up to that state, we may change our plan. We may change our idea. So contractor will keep note of such changing elements, and later, before painting work start, he will take consent of each family member again. So that's called the customer collaboration and feedback at every step of the project.
Pre-construction phase. So we saw during the predictive, in this phase, the architectural design and drawing will be completed. And then once it is done, they will obtain the necessary permit and approval. Here below, you can see the black text. These both are the agile elements. So what will happen during development of design process, our contractor will involve all of us, means all the stakeholders, me and my family members. So he will ask what is the choice of each member for the interior and the direction of room entry, and whether all bathroom needs bathtub or not, what will be the kitchen size, and so on, so many things. So small design iterations can run to come up with the final design based on everyone's feedback. So you see, nowadays many advanced technologies are being used for prototyping, as you know, 3D rendering, which can show the different angles, interior layouts, and even lighting effects. Or you know, the virtual reality. This is the another latest technology. So with wearing the VR headset, the client can take the virtual tours of their future homes. So such kind of things, contractor can organize to get more and more feedback from stakeholders. Site preparation phase. So once design is finalized, then team will mobilize to the site. We spoke earlier in predictive, the contractor will do the site survey and soil analysis. He will engage expert to check the water table. If everything is normal, then it's okay. If not, suppose soil is too loose or too sandy and water table is higher than expected, then what to do in that case? So here you can see the black text again. Agility and flexibility will help to assess the situation quickly. If problem can be resolved by running few iterations of necessity solution, then it's okay. If not, and if the situation is really out of control and out of budget, then better to leave the site and choose the new site. Construction phase. Foundation construction, framing and structural work, roofing and exterior work, interior finishing. These all activities we spoke earlier in the predictive approach. In hybrid approach also, these all activities will be in the sequential manner, and they will follow the predictive approach. Once come to the interior finishing, here it will be a lot scope for the changes. So this time I or my family members, we can ask for some changes, so the contractor will accommodate our demand. So he will implement those demand into his project through the iterations. And he will have the regular meeting with us and he will take the regular feedback from us for what he is implementing. Post construction phase, final inspection and testing handover to client. So during the predictive, the project team used to do the inspection by their own, but here in hybrid approach, they will include client, means I and my family members will also join with the project team for the final inspection. So if any minor changes, they will implement those changes. Come to the closure. So the team will do the project documentation and evaluation. The team will demobilize from the project site. Along with this, in hybrid approach, they will conduct a final retrospective meeting to capture the lessons learned and the best practices. They will discuss what went well and what could be improved. And the team will identify the areas of improvement, for their future projects. So we saw by blending of predictive planning with agile flexibility, this house building project can effectively manage and overcome the unexpected site conditions, ensuring the successful and timely completion of the project.
That's all for now. I hope you have enjoyed the content and delivery. Let's take a short break and I'll return soon with more project management material. Before we part ways, I'd like to ask you to show your support by liking and subscribing my channel. Your engagement means a lot to me. Namaste. Goodbye. Sampai Jumpa.